The Strand subclass is obviously one of the biggest things in the spotlight with the Lightfall expansion. And even with all the exotics that actually synergize pretty well with Strand, I want to take a step back and look at Stasis because the Warlock's got a new pair of exotic gauntlets that actually work with the Stasis subclass called the Ballidorse Wrathweavers. First up, let's go over its perk. Hearts of Ice. Your Winter's Wrath shockwave deals increased shatter damage. Allies in range of your shockwave gain an overshield and increased damage with stasis weapons. If you want to know how to obtain this exotic, there are only two ways to do it. The first way is by completing the Lightfall campaign on Legendary, and then you have the option of choosing between the Swarmer's exotic boots and then these gauntlets. So if you opted for the Swarmers, again, the only other way to get the gauntlets is by completing the Legend Lost sector of the day, and make sure that it rewards the exotic gauntlets armor when completed solo. Again, if you don't have the exotic, it's pretty typical you'll get an exotic that you don't have already, but again, it could take 1 try, 10 tries. I've had a thing take like 20 plus tries to get an exotic to drop that I don't have, so again, might take a couple tries, but that's the only other way to get it. Now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about what exactly this exotic does. So first things first, this exotic can only really be taken advantage of when you have your Stasis Super, the Winter's Wrath, so keep that in mind. Its first thing, your Winter's Wrath shockwave deals increased shatter damage. What exactly does that mean? So whenever you're using your super and you go to freeze a target and then do the pulse to shatter them, do that really big damage. What's really cool is that that shockwave actually does around 2 times the damage to that target now. So I think that's pretty good, especially if you're going to be playing individually. But again, there is, like I mentioned, the other side of the perk where your allies come in. So allies in range of your shockwave gain an overshield and increase damage with stasis weapons. So again, whenever you do that pulse with the super, anyone around you will get a stasis overshield. It's stasis specific overshield because it actually has a timer in the bottom left for your teammates whenever you have that, buff. So that's pretty neat. And then obviously increased damage with only stasis weapons. I think they should probably change that around to where it's, all weapons across the board, because again, what are the odds everyone's rocking stasis weapons for a certain activity, So again, I think that portion should be all weapons. But the overshield thing is another thing I do want to talk about, because unfortunately the overshield cannot be, refreshed. So again, you'll have a timer for how long you can have the overshield, but if your Winter's Wrath, Warlock decides to do the pulse again, it cannot be refreshed. The timer is going to run all the way to 0. And the unfortunate thing is, if you continue to pulse with this exotic, you're not going to take advantage of the ad clear and the extra damage you can do with this super. And by the time their overshield runs out of time, you're going to be out of your super anyway. So on that initial pulse, that's when everyone's going to get the overshield, and that's done and over, unfortunately. So in my opinion, I think this exotic feels pretty underwhelming. In general, there's definitely a lot of better stasis exotics. Obviously, the Osmiomancy gauntlets are still super viable, especially when it comes to, cold snap grenades, and then also the stasis turrets that you can take advantage of. Now, if you're like, Dave, I really want to use this exotic, I just want to play with it, I like it, it looks cool, that's fantastic. Here is a potential build that you can use, okay? I'm going to give you some suggestions here that might be able to help you out. So first up on the stats, you definitely want tier 10 resilience. We talk about this every video. You want that 30% damage reduction in PvE activities, obviously. And then obviously the second thing you want to focus on is intellect. Having max intellect is going to allow you to have your super back even faster, which is going to help you take advantage of the perks here on the gauntlets. Now the second thing that I would suggest, and this is kind of going to be running around with this build, is the Egger's Scepter Trace Rifle. This is in the primary slot and is stasis, so it's perk. Final blows of this weapon generate a slowing burst around the defeated target, and then also Rega's Refrain. Stasis final blows transfer ammo to this weapon's magazine from reserve. So again, you're going to be able to slow and freeze targets with this weapon. Now let's go over what I'm using in the stasis subclass. So first up, the super, Winter's Wrath. Obviously, that's how we're going to take advantage of the gauntlets here. For your class ability, you can use Healing or Empowering Rift. Use whatever movement ability that you would like. I like Burst Glide. We only have the 1 melee, so you just have to go with that one anyway. And then for grenade, I'm using Cold Snap, but you can use Dustfield or Glacier. It honestly doesn't matter. I just like the Cold Snap to be able to freeze all those targets. Now for aspects, I would recommend Ice Flare Bolts. Shattering a frozen target spawns Seekers that track and freeze other nearby targets. And then also Glacial Harvest. Freezing targets create stasis shards around the frozen targets. High tier combatants create more shards. For Fragments, I would highly recommend Whisperer Bonds here. Defeating a frozen target grants you super energy. You do take a stat hit to discipline and intellect, but again, if you have max intellect, don't really have to worry about that. We do want our super back even faster though. Next up, I'm using Whisper of Refraction. Defeating slowed or frozen targets grants you class ability energy. Now I do have some mods tied to the class ability or Healing Rift here. so we can get that super back even faster. But if you didn't want to use this one, I would look into Whisper of Fissures. Increases the damage and size of the burst of stasis when you destroy a stasis crystal and defeat a frozen target. This does work with the Egger Scepter and also the perk on the exotic gauntlets, but for the gauntlets, the damage is so negligible whenever you do the pulse wave that I honestly would not count on it for like a majority of the damage, because it's like 1%. It's so small, it's ridiculous. Next up, I have Whisper of Conduction. Nearby stasis shards track to your position. You do get a bump of resilience and intellect, so that does kind of even out here on the intellect side of things with Whisper of Bonds. And then also Whisper of Rhyme. Collecting a stasis shard grants a small amount of Overshield, which falls off after 10 seconds. Collecting additional shards adds to the Overshield and refreshes the timer. Now let's talk about the mods that we're going to use. So first up here on the helmet, I have Dynamo. Reduces super cooldown when using your class ability near targets. Again, like I talked about, using your Healing Rift, getting that back even faster, using it near targets is going to give us our super back even faster. Next up, I have Harmonic Siphon. You could opt for, Stasis Siphon, since you are going to be using stasis weapons, but Harmonic works with stasis because we are using a stasis subclass. So again, rapid stasis weapon final blows create an orb of power, and it's only going to cost us 1. Then lastly, I'm going with special ammo finder for Egger Scepter, so we can have that ammo, increases the drop chance of special ammo on kill. On our gauntlets here, I'm rocking Momentum Transfer. Causing damage with grenades reduces your melee cooldown. Then Heavy-Handed, your powered melee final blows create orbs of power. And then Bolstering Detonation grants class ability energy when you cause damage with a grenade. If you did want to replace one of these, I would recommend you replace it with Focusing Strike. Again, grants class ability energy when you cause damage with a melee attack. On our chest piece, I'm going with triple Harmonic Reserves here. Increases the amount of ammo you can carry for stasis weapons. Again, if you were to opt for something like the Stasis Reserve, is going to cost 3, but since, we're going to be using stasis weapons with the stasis subclass, again, Harmonic Reserves is going to work. Now, if you did want to replace one of these for resistance mods or any other type of mod, you could totally do so. But again, I would just recommend triple Harmonic, so you have a lot of that trace rifle ammo. On our boots here, first up, Harmonic Scavenger. Stasis weapons get bonus reserves when picking up ammo used by that weapon. Again, you could go with the Stasis Scavenger, but Harmonic Scavenger works with stasis weapons. Like I mentioned, stasis weapons, stasis subclass. As long as it matches, this will kick in, which is really good. Now this is where we're going to talk about armor charges. So again, with the Stasis Weapon Surge, your stasis weapon gain a small bonus to damage while you have any armor charge. Your armor charge now decays over time. So again, whenever we collect the orb of power, we're going to get an armor charge. So if we continue to collect orbs of power, we will have continuous bonus damage here for the Egger Scepter and any other stasis weapons we decide to use. And then lastly, I have Innervation here. Reduces grenade cooldown each time you pick up an orb of power. If you did want to replace this, you could do Invigoration, which is the same thing, but it cools down your melee. And the same thing with Installation, but it actually cools down your class ability. Or if you really wanted to, you could do double Stasis Weapon Surge, so you get even more damage out of any of your stasis weapons. And lastly, on our class item, we have Time Dilation. Your decaying armor charge has a longer duration, so that goes from 10 seconds to 15 seconds now. So if we have max armor charges, which is going to be 3, we can have that bonus stasis weapon damage for 45 seconds. And then Reaper here, after using your class ability, your next weapon final blow spawns an orb of power. And then lastly, Special Finisher. Again, this is a just-in-case type of thing if you don't have special ammo spawning in, but finishers generate special ammo for you and your whole fire team. Consumes 3 stacks of armor charge. So if you have max armor charges and very little special ammo, just get a finisher on our target, get that free special ammo. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I've given you everything I know about the Ballidorse Wrathweavers exotic gauntlets. What do you guys think of these exotics? Let me know in the comments. Are they good? Are they bad? What changes could Bungie implement to make these a little more viable? And how well do you think they perform in current activity? Like I said, I think they're very underwhelming, and I think Bungie should retune these. It's a cool concept, but I think there are some extra benefits here that we can take advantage of, even outside of the Super. If you like what you saw, be sure to drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and then turn that bell next to notifications so you don't miss out on any other videos here on the channel. If you didn't know, we actually stream here live on YouTube 3 days a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Friday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern. Again, we're going to be mainly playing Destiny 2 and getting the community involved. So if you want to hop in, play activities, whether it's dungeons, raids, PvP, or just vibing, again, just hop in the chat, say, hey Dave, can I join? I'll say absolutely. And if you want to be proactive, join my Discord. That's where everyone's going to be communicating. We do talk about Destiny 2 a lot, obviously, but we have other topics in there like other games, PC tech, anime, and more. Lastly, if you didn't know, we hit YouTube Partner here on the channel, which is just freaking awesome. It's giving us access to a lot of cool features. One of those things being memberships. If you don't know what a membership is, it is essentially like a Twitch subscription. Again, that's going to give you access to exclusive emotes here on the channel, monthly badges, and plenty of other stuff. So if you'd like more information, all you have to do is press the join button next to subscribe, and that will give you a rundown with all the details you need. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of the video. Hope to catch you in the next one. Cheers!